post about how women don't benefit from marriage and the incels went crazy. The consensus from most men in the comments were that women do benefit from marriage through divorce. So they seem to be in agreement that the best part of marriage for women is leaving. If that were true, which it's not, I think that would make my point.
Married men, on the other hand, married to women, outperform single men by such a measure that it is perhaps the healthiest thing that a man can do is to get a woman to marry him. Married men live longer, they're healthier, they make more money, they advance more in their careers, they're more creative, they're less likely to commit suicide, they're less likely to die of homicide, they're less likely to die in car accidents, in every single possible way. The best thing a man can do is to get married to a woman.
For generations, marriage was presented as every woman's ultimate goal. It wasn't just encouraged, it was expected. Women were told that if they found a good husband, settled down and built a family, they would have everything they needed to live a good and happy, fulfilling life. It was sold as the greatest milestone a woman could achieve, almost as though every other accomplishment was secondary. But today, the conversation has changed dramatically. More women are openly saying that marriage simply isn't worth it anymore. Some describe it as unpaid labor. Others call it a bad investment. Some even go as far as saying marriage feels like modern day slavery or a scam. So these statements shock a lot of people, especially those who still believe marriage is the foundation of a successful life. So what's changed? Did women suddenly stop believing in love? Have they become too independent, too picky, or too cynical? Or are they simply looking at the marriage through lens of experience instead of tradition? This isn't about attacking marriage or saying every marriage or every married woman is unhappy. There are plenty of healthy, loving marriages that thrive because both partners genuinely respect and support each other. But if more women are questioning marriage, then it's worth asking why. Let's look at the reason behind this growing shift.
Do you understand how many women's life journeys are stopped prematurely because they got involved with the wrong man? Y'all don't understand how deep this stuff goes. How many women have thrown away their life because of a man? I want you guys to remember that there's no boyfriend and girlfriend in the Bible. There's no boyfriend and girlfriend in the Bible. Like, you're in a fake, whatever you're in, right? There's no such thing as boyfriend and girlfriend. There's no such thing. It's either single or married. And marriage is only a thing because it is a contract. There's a business agreement. When you become a wife, you're signing up to allow yourself to be a vessel for somebody to carry out their purpose through you.
They want y'all to cook, clean, raise kids, pay half the bills, and turn tricks in the bedroom. That sounds like slavery to me. If I was you, I wouldn't do that shit either.
Talking about how many women have thrown away their lives just because of a man, just as the creator said, I've seen this happen so many times. It usually doesn't start all at once. It's the small things she keeps giving up. Little by little, one day she looks at her life and wonders how she even got here.
Marriage is an institution that is absolutely terrible for women. It is a garbage deal. A friend of mine said recently, if marriage benefited women, they would have taken it from us already. Right? Because they're taking away everything else that's good for women. Yes. But they're like, get married. Yeah. You should get married, though. Yeah. Right? Married women do not live as long as single women. They do not earn as much money as single women. They are not as happy as single women. They are more likely to suffer from addiction than single women. They are more likely to commit suicide than single women. They are more likely to die of homicide than single women. They report themselves in every single way that you can measure sociological data for wellness as being less contented than single women.
I'm going to tell you why I think marriage is a scam. So I've never wanted to be married pretty much like since I was a little girl, right? Here's how it started. When I was like in 5th grade, I was hanging out with like 5 different black ladies from church, right? And they asked me, baby, what do you want to do when you grow up? And then I said, I want to be married because I was programmed that way, right? And then they said, baby, don't ever get married. Don't ever get married. It's better to stay single. It's not worth it. All 5 of them. And that stuck into my head because I was a smart little girl. I was like, wait, 5 old ladies are married. They've been married for like 20 to 30 years. They're all saying it's horrible.
What do women get from marriage? Somebody? It's not protection, because the man most likely to beat your ass is the one in the house with you. It's not provisions. Women work. What exactly do we get out of marriage? Security? Security from what? What are we secure from?
So I get why this question makes some men uncomfortable, because for a long time, women were expected to ask, how do I keep a marriage? Instead of, is this marriage actually good for me?
Him cheating? No. Him whooping your ass? No. Him talking to you crazy? No. What do women get from marriage? Like, men expect us to be their domestic slave, basically. A servant, an unpaid servant. And then expect us to go 50-50, even though it'll never be 50-50, because until you can get pregnant, carry that child, and then birth that child, nothing will ever be 50-50. That woman puts her life on the line, and you do not. Nothing you do puts your life on the line. I know suddenly all dudes on TikTok are oil riggers, coal miners, I don't know, underwater scuba diver, fucking whatever the hell y'all like to come up with. And we built the world. The world is shitty, so congratulations. Men don't put their life on the line in the relationship at all for any reason. So what do women get from marriage? Ladies, let me know.
I am so much happier. I feel so much more at peace now that I'm a single parent, despite what the world thinks. Oh, how are you going to do that on your own? How are they going to be without a father living under the same roof? That's all BS, because I promise you, my baby is happier than she's ever been. And I'd rather be alone than walking on eggshells every day, worrying about a man coming home angry, worrying about him changing the energy in my home, meeting his demands, filling all the wifely duties that are expected of me, cleaning up after him, when I don't get that same energy in return. Marriage really only benefits the man. That's why society puts that label on single moms.
Walking on eggshell is exhausting. You end up thinking about their mood before your own, and after a while, you don't even realize you've been doing it because it has become normal. That survival mode, right? And many women are no longer afraid of being single. So using loneliness or the threat of you end up alone doesn't pressure them anymore like the way it used to. So once you've experienced real peace, it's hard to be convinced that staying stressed just because you're in a relationship is somehow a better option.
Marriage is one of the greatest scams placed on women. They really got into our heads, manipulated and brainwashed us to think that this is what we love, this was going to be good for us, we were going to be happy doing this. Having a man in our bed, constantly having access to our body so that he could use for his selfish reasons. He goes to work, builds his career while I stay home, do slave labor. That isn't giving me any kind of investment in myself. But I'm supposed to be happy. They're constantly thinking what they can get out of the world, from their business, from their job, from you. But the moment we speak up and say, hey, Mr. Man, what are you going to give to me?
This is where the conversation always seems to go sideways. The moment a woman asks, what am I actually getting out of this relationship? People suddenly act like she's treating love like a business deal. But I've never understood that. Everyone has standards, right? So everyone wants something out of a relationship. So why is it only a problem when a woman says it out loud?
What's in it for me? We're selfish. We're not feminine. We're not nurturing. We're not loving. That's called guilt tripping. Any form of guilt tripping, be wary of that person. They're trying to get something from you that isn't theirs to take. We're done with guilt tripping, manipulation, lies. At the end of the day, we are trying to survive, and sometimes it is beneficial to live with somebody. But we're not bitches because we ask, what's in it for me? Because if there isn't anything in it for me, we should be able to say no.
Whether people agree with everything she said or not, I do think more women are asking a different question now. So instead of assuming a relationship is automatically a good thing, they are asking if actually it adds to their life. I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting the answer before committing to something.
Being married, I did everything. I cooked, I cleaned, I set up events, I had the friends, I made the dates. I did everything for this man. Everything. And anytime I asked for help, there was always backlash and an argument. It was a manipulative tactic, and eventually it got into fear tactics, if you know what I'm saying. There was a time where I had this really great job, and then he convinced me to quit it, and then got mad when I was not bringing any money when he asked me to quit my job.
This really stood out to me because most men are really guilty of wanting a lot of women to be dependent on them. They'll push you to rely on them for everything, but the moment the relationship starts falling apart, they turn around and use the dependence against you. That's manipulation. That's making sure that you have fewer options when things start going wrong.
How beneficial marriage is for men. They get married immediately after a divorce or after they lose their wives. In less than 6 months. 99% of them just get married again. Women, on the other hand, they don't get married again. If they lose their husbands or if they get a divorce, 90% of them don't get married again. Both my grandmothers, when they lost their husbands, they didn't get married again. And they weren't grandmothers yet. They were still very much in their youth. But men just immediately, they get married again. Immediately. As a matter of fact, they already know who they're going to replace the wife with. Women might get married for love, but men get married for your labor. And that's why that married man that you're having an affair with will never leave his wife, because free labor, why would he leave that for you? It's just a side piece. You'll never be able to take on all that workload that his wife takes on, so why would he leave that for you? What? Be so fucking for real.
So let's talk about some reasons why women feel marriage isn't worth it again, or some people say marriage is a scam. Now, the first point is the fairy tale didn't match reality. Many women grew up believing that marriage would make their life easier. They imagined having a best friend, a teammate, and someone who would share the responsibilities of life equally. Now, the picture painted by society was one of companionship, mutual support, and unconditional love. However, for many women, the reality looked very different. So instead of gaining an equal partner, they found themselves becoming the household manager. The excitement of the wedding eventually gave way to endless responsibilities that they didn't fully anticipated. The dream they had been sold didn't always match the life they ended up having or living. So that's why so many women say they don't hate marriage itself, they hate the imbalance they experience within it. They weren't disappointed by the institution alone, they were disappointed because the partnership they expected never truly materialized.
Did you know that when you enter a marriage as a woman, your life expectancy goes down about 1.7 years? A man's life expectancy goes up about that same amount. Despite the angry misogynists yelling about how women get everything in divorce and women get to take half of what I make, first of all, 2 people laboring for 1 salary in a marriage means that 2 people earn that salary. So of course that gets split up at the end of a marriage. But what I would actually like to talk about is the fact that 2 people usually enter into a marriage while both having careers. And women's are the ones that get pushed to the side and sometimes ended with marriage. Women are the ones who leave marriage at a disadvantage because they have a huge gap in their career. And men will literally complain that after having exploited a person's free labor for however many years, that person is then entitled to financial compensation. Every bit of hard, cold data points to the fact that marriage is harmful for women.
So let's talk about women no longer needing marriage to survive. One of the biggest reasons attitude towards marriage have changed is because women's lives have changed. In previous generations, marriage often provided financial security because many women had limited opportunities to support themselves independently. Marriage wasn't always about love, it was about survival. But today, millions of women have careers, businesses, investment, and financial independence. They can buy homes, they can travel, raise their kids alone, and build successful lives without relying on a husband for economic stability. That changes the question entirely. So instead of asking, how do I find a husband? Many women are asking, what does marriage add to my life that I don't already have? If marriage creates more stress than peace, more responsibility than partnership, then many women simply don't see the benefit anymore.
How do you know that marriage is not beneficial to women? Because it's never been illegal nor restricted. Think about it. Anything that's good for women or that benefits women has been illegal or has had a restriction upon it. Think about it. Abortion, education, having your own bank account, having your own mortgage, being able to work, credit cards, anything that has benefited women has been restricted or illegal. Divorce, all of the things that help us and make our lives better has been restricted or illegal. So that's how we know, because society only pushes, patriarchy only pushes marriage on women. Everything else they try to discourage. Anything that benefits us and helps us live better lives has always been either illegal at one time or restricted at one time, and some of them still are today.
So one complaint that comes up repeatedly is that many women feel they are expected to work 2 full-time jobs. They contribute financially just like their husbands, yet they are expected to handle most of the cooking, most of the cleaning, the laundry, the childcare, the meal planning, grocery shopping, and household organization. So after spending 8 to 9 hours at work, many women come home to another shift waiting for them. Now, meanwhile, they watch their husbands relax, assuming that helping occasionally is enough. That is where frustration begins. Many women aren't asking for perfection, they're asking for partnership. They don't want to feel like they are carrying the household while someone else simply lives in it.
And or should men ever take on half of the domestic labor in their house, when for centuries, they have been told that the only thing that they need to do to be a participant in a marriage and a relationship is to bring home a paycheck. So why now, all of a sudden, would they find the need to become an equal partner in a relationship, in a marriage, to distribute the domestic labor, the child care equally between their partner? Why now? What's in it for men? Why would they do something when for so long they have benefited from us doing everything and them not having to lift a finger more than going to work and bringing home money? Since the moment you two got together, you have cooked his dinners, done his laundry, fed his dogs, done everything for him. And now you're expecting him to equally divide the domestic and household labor? Why? Why would he want to do that? You've done everything for him for so long since you two have been together.
So let's talk about the invisible mental load. Now, one thing that often goes unnoticed is the mental load that many women carry every single day. It's not just about washing dishes or folding clothes. It's remembering doctor's appointments, keeping track of school schedules, planning birthdays, noticing when groceries are running low, organizing family functions or events, and constantly thinking every steps ahead. This kind of work is invisible because no one sees it happening, yet it requires constant mental energy. So many women describe feeling like they are the project managers of the entire household, while everyone else simply waits for instruction. Over time, carrying that responsibility alone becomes emotionally draining. It can leave women feeling less like a wife and more like a manager responsible for keeping everyone's life running smoothly.
I believe there are many reasons why cishet marriages are on the decline, and I'm not going to talk about all of them. But one thing I do think that has become very present to most women and men is that marriage is a safety net for men, and it creates essentially a village around him to prop him up. And for women, it is a risk. Marriage comes with risk. And the reason I say that, and it's not always the case, there's obviously nuance, but when you get married to a man and tie up your finances with him and have children with him, you take on a level of risk. Because typically, women are the ones who leave the workforce to care for children. Women are the ones whose careers take a back seat to their male counterparts. Women are the ones who are left without financial security when they stay at home with their children. Women incur a risk. They also incur a risk to their mental health, their emotional health, right? When you marry a male partner and he expects you to prop him up and to support him, to carry the mental load, to do all the domestic labor, to prioritize his career, to bear children for him, then you are viewed as a tool to his success. And in like historical cishet relationships, it didn't flow both ways. As a woman, as a married mother, who has a great marriage, who has an equitable partner, I can now tell women, hey, listen to the married woman. Listen to the happily married woman. If I'm happily married and I'm telling you, don't do it, it's not worth it, what do you think an unhappily married woman is going to tell you? It's not. For most women, it's not worth it. Because for most women, you will end up doing the majority of the domestic labor and the child care.
Another reason is that women started comparing their experiences or sharing their experiences. Years ago, many women believed the struggles in their marriage were unique to them. They blamed themselves, wondering if they simply weren't patient enough or supportive enough. But social media today has changed all of that. Suddenly, women from different countries, culture, and backgrounds are sharing stories that sounded remarkably similar. The same complaints over and over again, doing most of the house chores, carrying the emotional burden, feeling unheard, and feeling unappreciated. So when thousands of women begin describing nearly identical experiences, it becomes difficult to dismiss those experiences as isolated incidents. Many women realize they weren't alone, and that realization has encouraged them to question expectations they had accepted for years.
You know what I'm not falling for? Anti-marriage propaganda. I feel like there's an influx of women online trying to warn other women not to get married. Marriage doesn't benefit women. Marriage is a scam. Marriage is stupid. Don't get married. Stay single. It almost feels like a scare tactic. And I'm just gonna say it. You married the wrong man. If you chose the right partner and you were truly happy and fulfilled, why would you need to convince other women that marriage is a scam? Like, if you're gonna give advice, why is it never anything productive? Why not teach women what to look out for in a good partner or what to avoid in a bad partner? Why is it always, don't get married? My marriage failed, so yours will too. Like, you sound very miserable. There are lots of women out here who are in happy marriages, who are fulfilled, who are in a healthy relationship, but we don't get to hear a lot of that. It's always, don't get married. Marriage is a scam. And I'm not gonna lie, a lot of the times accountability needs to be taken. You get to pick who you marry. It's not like you just wake up married one day. You get to pick. And I'm not saying that there aren't awful men out there. Like, there's lots of awful men in this world, but there are also good ones too. And I already know there's gonna be some miserable people saying, oh, well, you just wait until you're married and you'll see. Your mistakes are not universal. Your mistakes don't apply to everybody. What happened to you in your marriage, it might be very unfortunate, but it doesn't apply to everybody. It's getting bitter, babes. It's getting bitter.
There was a time when society treated being single as something women should fear. A married woman was often viewed as more successful or complete, while a single woman was pitied or pressured to settle down. Today, many women see things differently. They have discovered that peace, stability, and emotional safety are far more valuable than simply having the title of wife. If a relationship constantly creates stress, conflict, or emotional exhaustion, many women would rather remain single than sacrifice their well being just to meet society's expectation. So being single no longer carries the same stigma it once did. For many women, it represents freedom, independence, and ability to protect their peace. Marriage should make life better and not harder, right? A question many women are asking now is surprisingly simple. If marriage is supposed to be a partnership, why do so many wives say their lives became more difficult after getting married? Marriage should reduce burden by allowing two people to share responsibilities, support one another, and solve problems together. But if one partner constantly sacrifices more while the other benefits more, resentment naturally begins to grow. This doesn't mean every marriage is unequal, but it does explain why so many women are raising their standards. They are not looking for someone to complete them. They are looking for someone who genuinely improves the life they've already built. Another reason marriage is being questioned is because women are paying attention to the experiences of divorced women. Many expected divorce to represent failure, but instead they heard countless women describing something completely different. Many women spoke about finally sleeping peacefully, feeling happier, regaining their confidence, and rediscovering themselves after living unhealthy marriages. So those stories challenges the long-held belief that staying married at all costs was always the best outcome. So when women repeatedly hear others say they found peace after living difficult marriages, it naturally leads them to think more carefully before entering one themselves. Women aren't rejecting love, they are rejecting unequal relationships. One of the biggest misconceptions is that women no longer believe in love. That's not what most women are saying at all. Many women still want companionship, they want commitment and lasting relationships. What they don't want is to lose themselves in the process. They don't want a relationship where they are expected to sacrifice their careers, their mental health, their personal growth, and happiness while receiving little in return. Modern women aren't necessarily rejecting marriage, they are rejecting relationships that demand everything from them while asking very little from their partners. So, is marriage really a scam? The truth is, marriage itself isn't automatically a scam. A healthy marriage built on mutual respect, trust, shared responsibility, and genuine partnership can be one of the most rewarding experiences two people ever have. What many women are calling a scam is the expectation that they should continue accepting unequal treatment simply because previous generations did. They are questioning a version of marriage where one person carries most of the emotional, domestic, and mental responsibilities while the other enjoys the benefits. Perhaps the real issue isn't marriage itself, perhaps it's the outdated expectations that some people still bring into it. So, at the heart of this conversation is one simple question: does marriage genuinely improve a woman's life? For previous generations, many women didn't have the freedom to ask that question because marriage was often tied to financial security and social acceptance. But today, women have more choices, and with those choices comes the freedom to evaluate marriage differently. That's why women are speaking openly about their experiences. They are no longer willing to accept relationships that leave them feeling overworked, emotionally exhausted, or taken for granted simply because society says marriage is the ultimate goal. The conversation isn't really about whether marriage is good or bad, it's about whether the relationship is fair. A healthy marriage should bring peace, support, respect, and shared responsibility to both partners. So when those things exist, marriage can absolutely be worth it. But when they don't, it's easy to understand why women are asking whether the version of marriage they were promised ever truly existed in the first place. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next video.